Hello and welcome to my AQA GCSE Maths Foundation Paper 3 predicted paper for this summer. Before we begin, some general information. Firstly, I'd highly recommend that you download and try doing this paper before watching the walkthrough. I've put a link in the description so you can download it to try first. The paper perfectly covers the advanced topic list material released by AQA in February 2022. All of the questions are original and created by myself, so you won't find these questions in any other paper. And finally, there's no guarantee that questions will be asked exactly in this way, but this is excellent practice for your summer exams. For this question, we'll write out the number. The 2 is in the thousands column, the 7 is in the hundreds, the 4 is in the tens, the 1 is in the units. In the question, it asks us about the digit 7. So if we look at the 7, which is in the hundreds column, it must represent 700. For this question, we'll take 60% and turn it into a fraction. Remember, percent means out of 100, so 60% just means 60 out of 100. If you type 60 out of 100 in your calculator and then press equals, it will show you that this is the same as 3/5. For this question, we need to convert meters into centimeters. You should know that 1 meter is equal to 100 centimeters. In this question though, we want 5.5, or 5.5 meters. So to get from 1 to 5.5, we times by 5.5. So we'll do 100 times 5.5, which gives you the answer 550. So that's the answer to the question. For this question, we'll need our calculator. So let's start by typing in a bracket, and then we'll press the fraction button. And then we need to do 3 squared, so we'll go for 3, and then the squared button. And then we'll press the down button to get to the bottom of the fraction. Here we need 10. And then we'll press the right button to get away from this fraction and put our closed bracket. And don't forget there's a cubed at the end. This now matches the question. If you press equals, you'll get this number, and then SD, you'll see that as 0.729, which is the answer to the question. For this question, we're going to convert 12 hours into seconds. You should know that there are 60 minutes in 1 hour. So if we do 12 times 60, we find out that 12 hours is the same as 720 minutes. But there are 60 seconds in 1 minute. So if we take the 720 minutes and times by 60, we get the answer 43,200, which is now in seconds. So all you need to do for this question is times by 60 and times by 60 again. So the answer is 43,200 seconds. For this question, we're going to draw a bar chart. So first of all, draw your 2 axes. We'll then label the horizontal axis with our travel methods. So we've got walk, bike, car, and bus. Notice I've left a 1 square gap between each of the bars, and also all of the bars are 1 square in width. That's important. We then need to label this axis, so I'd call it travel method. We now move on to the vertical axis, so this one's going to be our frequency. The highest frequency is 14, so we'll label an axis that goes up to 14. And this axis will be labelled frequency. We're now ready to draw the bars. The first bar is for walk, and that goes up to a height of 12. The next one for bike goes up to 14. The next one for car goes up to 4. And the final bar for bus only goes up to 1, so you want to do half the square for this one. And that's a completed bar chart. This regular polygon has 8 sides, therefore it must be a regular octagon. When we're doing the order of rotational symmetry, the easiest thing to do is trace the shape. You can then turn the shape through 1 full turn and count how many times it fits to itself. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So the rotational symmetry is 8. We now need to draw the lines of symmetry. First of all, there'll be one line down here, and another one horizontally here. You also have lines that go diagonally, here, and here. But that's not the whole story. You can also draw lines that go through the corners of the shape. So there's one here, one here, one here, and a final one here. So altogether there are also 8 lines of symmetry. In this question we're told that 52 of the phones were the 16GB version, so we can write 56 straight into the frequency tree. We also have 79 8GB phones, so we can put that straight into the frequency tree. We'll skip over the 60 phone covers for a moment. It says half of the customers who bought the 16GB phone also bought a phone cover. So of these 56 people, half of them did buy a phone cover. So if we do 56 divided by 2, we get 28. If we now go back to those 60 phone covers, we just had 28 phone covers, so 60 take away 28 gives you 32. So for the 8GB model, 32 people must have bought phone covers. We can now fill in the gaps. These two numbers here must add together to make 56. So 56 take 28 is 28. These two numbers here must add together to make 79, so 79 take 32 is 47. And these two numbers here must add together to make the total number of phones, so 56 add 79 is 135. For this question we're working out the total profit. We know they sold 52 of the 16GB phones, and each of those phones earns them £15 profit. So if we do 52 times 15, we get 780. So that's the profit on 16GB phones. If we look at 8GB phones, they sold 79 of those, and each one gets you £12.80 profit. So we'll do 79 times £12.80. And that gets you £1,011.20. Finally, the phone covers. There are 60 phone covers, and each one of those gets you 60p profit. So we do 60 times 60 pence, which gives you £36. If you then add all three of these numbers together, you'll get the total profit, which comes out at £1,827.20. For the first part of this question, we need to work out the calculation that goes in the box. The answer is plus 8. The reason is, you start with an input x, you then add 8, you then divide by 2. If you simplify this, it will give you x over 2, and then 8 divided by 2, which is 4. And this is what's in the output box. For the next one, we need to write the output y in terms of x. So we start with x, we times it by 3, which is 3x, and then we take away 5, and then this gives you the output. Now it says y in terms of x, so usually we'd write the y at the front of this. So if we move it so it says y equals, now we're done. For the last part of this question, we need to find a number that we use for an input that gives a negative output. This happens to be any negative number that you choose. So I'm going to choose -2. If we do -2 times 5, we get -10, and then -10, take away 1, gives you -11. And this is negative, so Jess must be wrong. For this question, we're trying to find the probability that Dave pots the ball with QA. So if we look in the table at QA, you can see he pots 23 of the balls and misses 27, which is a total of 50 shots. So the probability that he pots the ball is 23 over the total 50. We then have the same question but for QB. So if you look at QB in the table, he pots 36 of the balls, but he takes 80 shots in total. In the last part of the question, we need to decide which of the Qs Dave is better with. If you look at the probabilities but change them to decimals, it becomes clearer. So 23 over 50, if you type this into your calculator, will give you 0.46. 36 over 80 into your calculator will give you 0.45. 0.46 is greater, so this is the answer. The reason would be something like the probability of potting with QA is 0.46. This is greater than the probability of potting with QB, as this is 0.45. For this question, we're going to simplify by collecting like terms. So we have 6a squared and minus a squared. They're like terms, because they both have a squared. 6a squared take away a squared is 5a squared. We can then look at the -7a add 3a. -7a add 3a is -4a. Think of -7 add 3, which gives you -4. And that's the answer. In this question, we're looking for numbers that are factors of 200 and also multiples of 8. Let's start with the multiples of 8. We now need to check each of these to see if they're also factors of 200. To do that, we'll divide them into 200. So 200 divided by 8 first of all. That gives you 25. Since 25 is a whole number, 8 was a factor of 200, so that is one of the possible answers. 200 divided by 16 though, doesn't give a whole number, so that can't be one of the possible answers. 200 divided by 24 is also a decimal, so that's no good. 200 divided by 32 is a decimal again, so that's no good. But 200 divided by 40 is 5. Since that's a whole number, 40 is a factor of 200. So here are our two possible answers, 8 and 40. For this question, we have red, green and yellow counters in the ratio 2 to 6 to 5, so we'll write that down first of all. If we then create a table and a total column, if we add the parts for the ratio, 2 add 6, add 5, we get 13 parts. Now we're trying to find out if it's possible to have 50 counters in the bag. So if you write 50 underneath the total, then there must be a way of multiplying to get from 13 to 50. To work out what that number would be, you do 50 divided by 13, which gives you this number. Now since this number here is not an integer, 50 cannot be a possible number for the number of counters in the bag. There is another possible way of doing this. You could also keep multiplying the ratio. So if we start with the ratio as it is, but do 2 add 2 to get 4, 6 add 6 to get 12, and 5 add 5 to get 10. If you add up all of these parts, you'll get 26. You could do it again by adding another 2, another 6, and another 5. That would get you 6, 18, and 15, and if you add all of these up, you'll get 39. If you do it again, you'll get 8, 24, and 20, which adds up to 52. And notice we've now gone past 50 counters. So we could have 52 counters in the bag, we could have 39 counters in the bag, but we can't have 50. In this question, we're looking for the angle that's alternate to x. Alternate angles are when we have a Z shape on the diagram. So if you draw this Z here, then the angle x matches the angle A. So the one that's alternate to x is angle A. In this question, Lara's new container has a height of 15 centimeters, so it would be a cylinder that looks like this. The marbles have a radius of 4 mm, which means their height is twice that, 8 mm. Since the marbles are stacked on top of each other inside the container, all we need to do is see how many times 8 mm will fit into 15 centimeters. To do this, we need to convert one of them. I would convert 15 centimeters into 150 millimeters, and then we just do 150 divided by 8, which comes out as 18.75. This means we can fit 18.75 marbles into the container. Now you can't have 0.75 of a marble, so the answer would be 18. You can't round up to 19 because the 19th one won't quite fit. For this question, we're trying to find the cost of a 7-mile journey. We have the formula from the question, so we'll write that out, and then we'll write it out again, but substitute m for 7 since we know it's 7 miles. So we get p equals £2.50 plus 1.85 times 7. If you type this into your calculator, you'll get the answer £15.45. For the next part, we're told the price of the journey, and we want to know how many miles long it is. So we write the formula out again, but this time change p for the price. We now need to try and find m. To do this, take away £2.50 from both sides. If you do £41.35 take away £2.50, you get £38.85, and if you take £2.50 from the right, then you're just left with 1.85m. You can then divide both sides by 1.85, on the left you'll get 21, and on the right you get m. So m equals 21, so the answer is 21 miles. In this question, we're looking to find the perimeter of the shape. Unfortunately, two of the sides are missing, this one and this one. Let's find the bottom one first. The bottom one is a horizontal line, so let's mark on the other horizontal lines. We have 6, 4, and 3. If you add together the 6, the 4, and the 3, that would make the same total length as the bottom side. So 6 add 4 add 3 is 13, so the bottom one is 13. Now let's find the vertical one. If you see this side here is 11, and this side here is 8, then the difference between them would be this one here marked in green. 11 take away 8 is 3, so the green one is length 3. If we then move that along a little bit, we can see that this side here and the 3 must go together to make 8. So the missing one here is 8 take away 3, which is 5. We're now ready to find the perimeter, we just need to add together all of the sides. If you add together all of the sides marked here, you'll get the answer 58. The question also says to give the units of your answer. Since it's perimeter, it would just be centimeters. For this question, we're going to use trigonometry to find x. First of all, label the triangle. So opposite the angle is 20, adjacent to the angle or next to it is 35, and we're left with the hypotenuse opposite the right angle. So we'll use SOHCAHTOA. In this question we have O and A marked, so it must involve tan. So tan of the angle, which is x, equals the opposite, which is 20, divided by the adjacent, which is 35. We then do inverse tan, so x equals inverse tan of 20 over 35, type this into your calculator, and you'll get 29.7 degrees. In this question we need to make t the subject, so we'll start with the formula. We're going to remove this plus k first by taking away k from both sides. If you take away k from the left, you get a minus k, and take away k from the right, the k's cancel, so you're just left with 2t. We'll then eliminate this 2 here by dividing by 2 on both sides. On the left, that's a minus k, divided by 2, and on the right, the 2's cancel, so you've just got t. This shows us the answer is the last one. We need to write down the modal mark. The mode is the most frequent. So if you look at the spelling test marks, 7 has the highest bar, so 7 is the most frequent, which means the mode is 7. We'll then move on to the mean. We need to add up all of the marks, then divide by how many students there were. So if we look first of all at the first line, this is 4 marks and 1 person scored it. So we do 1 times 4, which gets you 4 marks altogether. If we look at the next bar, this is 5 marks and 2 people scored this. So there were 2 times 5, which is 10 marks altogether. If we look at the next one, this is 6 marks, but 5 people got it. So 5 times 6 is 30. And then 7 marks with 6 people is 6 times 7, 42. 8 marks with 5 people, 5 times 8 is 40. 9 marks with 5 people, 5 times 9 is 45. And finally, 10 out of 10, one person got 10 marks, so 1 times 10 is 10. These are all of the marks achieved. So if we add all of these up, we'll get the total marks, which is 181. We then need to divide this by how many students there were. We could achieve this by adding up all of the frequencies highlighted here, or we were just told this in the question. It said there were 25 of them. So 181 divided by 25 gives you 7.24. The ratio in this question is 3 to 4. This means for every 3 grams of cornflakes, you need 4 grams of chocolate. The graph asks us to go up to 90 grams of cornflakes. So if we write 90 underneath cornflakes, how do we get from 3 to 90 is times by 30. So times by 30 on the right side, 4 times 30 is 120. This means for 90 grams of cornflakes, we'd need 120 grams of chocolate. So our scale for chocolate needs to go up to 120. So draw a scale like this. We can then plot the point 90 and 120. So go from 90 on the cornflakes and 120 on the chocolate, and you'll find the point. You can then draw a straight line from 0, and you have the graph. For the next part, we're going to find the mass of chocolate needed if we have 75 grams of cornflakes. So go to 75 on the cornflake scale at the bottom, go up to the line, and then when you hit the line, go across, and you'll see we need 100 grams of chocolate. For this question, we're trying to find the highest common factor of 36 and 120. There are 2 ways you might do this. First of all, you could write down all of the factors of 36, and then all of the factors of 120, and then find the highest one that's in both lists. That happens to be 12, so the answer is 12. Instead, you may prefer to use prime factors. So if you express both of these numbers as a product of prime factors, 36 looks like this, and 120 looks like this. You then look for the common factors in each number, so we've got 2 2's in each one, and we've also got 1 3 in each one, so 2 times 3 does also give you 12. For this question, we're told the mass is measured to the nearest gram. So to find the upper and lower bounds, we'll add or take away 0.5 grams. If we start with the lower bound, 25 take away 0.5 is 24.5, and for the upper bound, 25 add 0.5 is 25.5. Now for this next one, we're dealing with a multi-pack of crisps, which has 12 individual packets. So all we do is take the bounds from the single packet and multiply by 12. So 24.5 times 12 gives a lower bound of 294, and 25.5 times 12 gives an upper bound of 306. For this question, we're told we're dealing with a geometric progression. For a geometric progression, to get from one term to the next, you multiply or divide by a number. To work out what number we're multiplying or dividing by here, I'm going to do 24 divided by 32, which gives you 0.75. This means to get from 32 to 24, I multiply by 0.75. So to get the next two terms, all I need to do is keep multiplying by 0.75. So 24 times 0.75, that's 18, so that's the third term. And then take that 18 and times by 0.75, and that gives you 13.5, and that's the fourth term. Next we have an arithmetic progression. So to get from one term to the next, we add or take away a number, but we need to work out the nth term. So first of all, how do we get from one term to the next? In all cases here, it's take away 2. So the nth term will be minus 2n. We can then write the minus 2 times table above the sequence, so minus 2, minus 4, minus 6, and so on, and work out how to get from the red numbers here to the black numbers. In all cases, it's add 22. So the nth term is minus 2n, add 22. You could also write this answer as 22 take away 2n. For this question, we need to work out the vector 2a plus b. So we'll start by taking a and multiplying it by 2. To do this, you just double all of the numbers in the vector. So 2 times 7 is 14, and 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. We then need to just add vector b, so add vector b. And then we do 14 add negative 3, which gives you 11. And then negative 6 add 6 gives you 0. For this question, I like to draw a table. So we'll start with Ryan and Amy, who share their money in the ratio 4 to 5. We can then draw the table, making space for a total column. The total amount of ratio parts is 9, since 4 add 5 is 9. We then look at the other numbers in the question. We have £315. That's the total amount of money, so I'll write it underneath the total column. We then need to work out how to get from 9 to £315. To do this, you can do 315 divided by 9, which gives 35. So to get from 9 to 315, I multiply by 35. Now we can multiply any of the other numbers by 35 to find out how much money they had. In this question, we only need to work out how much Ryan receives, so we do 4 times 35, which gives you the answer of £140. In the question, we're told that between 2018 and 2019, the number of students coming by car increases by 30%. So if we look at the column with cars, there's already a 220 there, but we need to increase that by 30%. So take 220 and multiply by 1.3. This gives you 286. So that's the number for 2019. We can also complete this column by finding the total, so 220 add 286 gives you 506. So that's the total for cars. The only missing value is 2018 for walk, so we need to do 246, take away 114, which gives you an answer of 132. So this is the number of people that walked in 2018. For this question, we need to find the turning point. The turning point can be seen right at the bottom of the graph here. That has coordinates -1, -2. We then need to find the roots. The roots are where the graph crosses the x-axis, so that's here and here. These would be at -2.4 and 0.4. This question comes in 2 parts, so we'll write down the speed, distance and time for each of those parts. So the first part, we're told in the question he runs 300 meters at a speed of 7.5 meters per second. So the distance is 300 meters and the speed is 7.5 meters per second. We don't know the time though. We'll then look at the second part. All we know for the second part is that the distance is 100 meters. We don't know speed or time. So if we go back to the first part, we're missing time, but we know a formula for time. Time is distance divided by speed. So if we do the distance, which is 300, divide by the speed, 7.5, we'll get the time. If you type this into your calculator, you'll get 40. We were also told in the question the total time for the race is 60 seconds. So we can actually work out the time for the second part now. 60 take away 40 is 20 seconds. So we're left with the speed for the second part. The formula for speed is distance divided by time. The distance in the second part is 100, and the time is 20 seconds. So 100 divided by 20 is 5 meters per second. And that's the answer to the question. Thank you for watching this video, I hope you found it useful. I've included some rough grade boundaries here. Remember, we won't know the exact grade boundaries until the papers have been done, but this will give you a good idea of where you're at. Also check out what I think you should watch next and subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos.